If your cost per deal has doubled in the last 18 months, you're not alone. And I'm gonna be blunt with you. It's about to get a lot worse if you keep doing what everyone else is doing. For context, I've spent over $12 million on Meta ads for real estate investors in the past 4 years, built over 150 lead gen systems for acquisition companies nationwide. I've helped clients generate over $8 million in assignment fees this past year. On top of that, my wife and I have personally bought over $2 million worth of real estate in the past 6 months alone. I'm not here to brag, I just want to make sure you understand that I'm not talking from a hypothetical point of view. I'm watching what's happening across hundreds of markets in real time, and the cost per acquisition crisis is real. Back in 2022, a lot of wholesalers were acquiring deals maybe for $1,500 to $2,000 cost per contract in markets like San Antonio, Tampa, Houston, Texas, Sacramento. By 2023, that has quietly jumped to $3,000 to $4,000 per contract. And in 2025, most investors I talk to are in the $4,000 to $7,000 per deal range on average. And that's if they're closing any deals at all. The spread hasn't doubled. The assignment fees aren't magically going to $30,000 to $40,000 on average now. So where's all this extra money going? Into acquisition. And this isn't a temporary blip. It's a permanent shift in how competitive this game is. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why your cost per acquisition is rising, the 3 forces making it worse every quarter, why every solution you've tried hasn't actually changed the trajectory, and most importantly, the one strategy that's actually bringing CPA down into a stable, logical number while everyone else is being squeezed. So if you're a wholesaler, flipper, or investor, and you're watching your marketing costs slowly eat up your margin month after month, watch this until the end. This might be the difference between surviving in this new environment or getting quietly pushed out of it in the next 12 to 24 months. And look, the reason your cost per acquisition is rising isn't because you're doing anything wrong. You're not an idiot. You didn't suddenly forget how to market or close deals. And most investors don't understand there are 3 main massive forces happening in the market right now that's making traditional lead generation more expensive and less affected by the months. So let's walk through them. Number 1, supply stays flat while demand explodes. Here's the brutal reality. The number of truly motivated sellers in your market isn't increasing. There's only so many people going through foreclosure, probate, divorce, severe financial distress at any given time. That's what we call a fixed supply. But the number of investors competing for those sellers, well, that's exploding. If you scroll through Instagram or TikTok, there are more gurus than ever teaching how to wholesale. There are more courses showing teenagers how to make $10,000 in 30 days with no money. More virtual operators are entering your market from other states. Hedge funds and national buyers dropping serious budget into off-market acquisition. And all of you are fishing the same pond with the same bait. For example, pre-foreclosure lists, tax lien lists, sell my fast keywords on Google, skip trace data. It's just basic economics. When demand increases and the supply stays the same, the prices will go up. And in this case, price equals the cost per lead and your cost per deal. And that's why your cost per lead has doubled and your cost per acquisition has tripled. If you feel like you're working harder for less breathing room per deal, you're not crazy. The pond didn't get bigger. There are just more fishers in the same pond. And the force number 2 is called data commoditization. Everyone has the same data. Foreclosure data, public records. Probate data, public records. Tax liens is also public record. Divorce records, often easily accessible. Every list provider is scraping the same county records and simply packaging them differently, slapping a brand on them, and selling to you and 50 other investors in your market. So what happens? By the time you pay for the data, skip trace it, load it into your dialer, and start reaching out, the seller has already received 20 calls, 15 text messages, 10 postcards from people saying almost the exact same thing. Hey, I saw you might be in foreclosure, or maybe even behind on payments, or maybe in probate. I'd love to make an offer on your house. You're not competing on a relationship. You're competing on who can offer the most and be the least annoying. And that's the reason why your spreads are being compressed month over month and your reps are working harder than ever, which pushes you farther into this race to the bottom dynamic. You can probably feel this in your own operation. There's more shopping around now. There's more sellers stalling. More people saying, I'm talking to a few others. And that's data commoditization in real life. And here's the 3rd force that's made everything 10 times worse. The legal environment around outbound marketing has completely changed. TCPA violations can carry penalties of $500 to $1,500 per violation with no cap. 10,000 unauthorized tags could expose you to 5 to 15 million in theoretical damages. Class action lawsuits has already shut down multiple SMS and dialing operations. Even if you're not blasting completely recklessly, carriers are filtering messages, compliance overhead is increasing, and the risk to reward ratio is just worse than what it used to be. So what do people do? They move from cold outbound into safe channels like Google PPC, direct mail, and pay-per-lead providers. And think about it. What happens when everybody floods into the same 2 or 3 channels? Well, competition intensifies and costs skyrocket. The government, And platform policies basically took your already crowded pond and said, everybody move closer together, and your cost per acquisition is paying the price. So at this point, you probably tried a few things to fix your cost per acquisition, right? Let me walk you through the 4 most common solutions that I see and why they don't really solve your structural problem. Number 1, just spend more. You probably thought if my cost per acquisition is going up, I'll just increase my ad spend and make it up for volume. At first glance, this sounds rational. You're not just increasing spend in a vacuum, you're bidding against hedge funds with 10 million plus in marketing budget and national buyers willing to accept break even or negative cost of acquisition in short term for longer term gains. You cannot outspend an entity whose entire advantage is having more money than you. So what happens? You push budget, you see short-term volume, but your cost per deal trends up anyways. You're trying to use more fuel to fix a structural problem in the engine. It just doesn't work. Or maybe you try this route. I don't have a lead problem, I have a closing rate problem. We just need better scripts and better sales training. And by the way, I'm all for skills. Sales training is very valuable, but no script in the world can compensate for the fact that the seller has already talked to 5 to 10 or maybe even 15 different investors, and they're explicitly in the shop for the highest number mode. You're showing up late with a commoditized offer into a fully saturated context. You might slightly improve conversions, but you won't fix the underlying math. You're still at the bottom of the slide, wrestling in a pile of other buyers. Another one I see consistently, I'm going to try different marketing channels. We go from PPC to direct mail, cold calling, and SMS. On paper, that sounds like diversification, but in reality, almost all those new channels are tracking the same signals. Public distress, in-market behavior, bottom of the funnel intent. So what are you actually doing? You're adding operational complexity, spreading your team's attention thin, paying multiple different vendors and tools while still going after the same static in-market pool. At roughly the same stage of the journey, you didn't just change the game, you're just paying more to play the same one. And there's the hustle answer. Well, I grind harder, make more calls, make more texts, make more follow-ups, crank the machine. This feels like the smart things to do, right? It feels like what entrepreneurs should do. But here's the truth. You, your team, your energy, they're a finite resource. Burnout is not hypothetical. Even if you could sustain 7 to 80-hour work weeks forever, you're still competing in the oversaturated pond for the same in-market seller against an ever-increasing wave of competition. You're just trying to brute force your way out of structural trap. Hard work doesn't beat a rigged model. A different model beats a rigged model. So here's what nobody else is saying clearly. And the problem isn't your market execution, it's not your sales team, it's not even your specific market. The problem is when you're showing up. Take a step back and look at this. Every single channel you're probably using right now, whether it's Google PPC, direct mail, cold calling, SMS, or even paying PPL vendors, is targeting sellers after distress has become public and obvious. They're already in foreclosure. They're already on a probate list in a database. They've already searched Sell My House Fast on Google. They've raised a big flag that says, I am in trouble. And by the time you reach them, 20 other investors already have as well. So you're in the most expensive, most crowded, most defensive phase in the seller's journey. You're fighting over yesterday's seller. And if all you ever do is fight for yesterday's seller, your cost per deal keeps rising. And the only way out is to move up the timeline, to stop relying on lagging indicators and start claiming tomorrow's sellers 60 to 90 days before anyone else even knows they exist. So here's the better question. What if I can talk to sellers 60 to 90 days before they ever hit a list, before they ever show up on anybody's skip trace? And what if you could build trust with them via content and messaging and be the first person who actually understands their situation and be the obvious choice when they're ready to sell? Will your close rate go up? Of course. Will your cost per deal go down? Yes. This is what pre-distress targeting is about. It's not guessing. We're just targeting a different stage in the seller's journey. And this is what pre-distress actually looks like. Pre-distress is when things starts to go wrong, but before the world knows. They miss a payment for the first time. Their income just suddenly dropped and they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Their house has major repairs they can't afford. They're tired of dealing with tenants that damage their property. They inherit a home that's causing family stress. And maybe even a spouse passed away. And now a big expensive house feels like a burden at this point. At this stage, there's no foreclosure filing yet. No one has put them on a list. They're not actively searching for an investor, but emotionally, they're feeling the pressure. They're thinking something has to change. They're open to guidance. That window, before they're in public distress, is where the leverage is. Because when you speak to a seller there, they haven't been spammed by 20 other investors. They're not aggressively shopping offers. They're more open to options and advice. You don't need to convince them with aggressive tactics. You need to give them language to what they're feeling, explain their options, and demonstrate that you're a competent, safe contact. That's it. And let me tell you a quick story about my client, George Smith, the owner and CEO of Propsters Homebuyer in Atlanta, Georgia. He's been in the game for over 10 years. He's done the PPC, he's done the cold calling, the mailers, buying county record lists, all the things you can ever imagine. But in his market right now, cost per Google PPC lead can easily run from $250 on a good day to $450 plus per lead. And at 1 out of maybe 10 to 15 leads per deal, that's a cost per contract anywhere between $2,500 to almost $7,000. And it doesn't sound too bad until the spreads don't rise, the competition increases, and everything starts to feel tighter. When George came to us, we implemented the pre-distressed meta system, and here's what happened in his first 36 days of launching his campaign. He spent about $1,800 on meta, generated 42 leads at $43 cost per lead, closed 6 deals on paper, 1 flip that he purchased that's going to net him at least $40,000, 2 wholesale deals, 2 listings, and 1 tenant placement. His cost per contract on that campaign, only about $300. The same market, same company, same salespeople, and the same internal disposition. Obviously, George is extremely experienced and he has multiple exit strategies, as you can see what I mentioned before. But the most important thing is that these sellers, a lot of them haven't even talked to other wholesalers. They weren't on any pre-foreclosure list. They weren't even searching sell my house fast. He was the first and that was the leverage. And this is why pre-distress changed the game. When you target pre-distress, you're not competing in the same overcrowded pond. You're accessing to a different layer of sellers that aren't on everybody's radar yet. The supply is 5 to 10 times larger. Instead of only targeting the 100 foreclosures happening this month, you're speaking to the 500 to 1,000 homeowners who are on a path towards distress 60 to 90 days out. Your conversion rate jumps. You're the only one speaking directly to their situation. And when they decide to move, they already know who feels the safest with. That's why my clients, for example, Brad Chandler from Express Home Buyers, lifted his return on ad spend to 8x in his meta campaign over the past quarter. Anthony Terrell from Elevate Capital in the Tampa Bay market hit $100,000 per month in funded deals within 8 months of using the system. It's not magic, it's just a different stage that we're going to be targeting in the seller's distress. It's a different pond that we're fishing in, which provides you all the leverage on the marketing dollars you currently have. Now you might be thinking, why meta? Why can't I just do pre-distress on Google or direct mail or some other channel? So let's quickly walk through why those channels are structurally limited. Why Google can't do it. Google requires search intent. Somebody must type in sell my house fast, Tampa Bay, which means by the time they appear in your world, they already know they have a problem. They already know selling is an option. They're actively searching for a buyer. So that means that they're in market again, bottom of the funnel. And we're trying to get upstream. Why can't direct mail do it? Well, mail relies on records, pre-foreclosure filings, tax delinquencies, probate filings. Again, those are lagging distress signals. You can't send pre-distressed mail at a scale with any reasonable accuracy. You can't just ask American Express to give you all of the missed payments this month. And lastly, why not cold call or SMS? Cold calling and SMS relies on lists. Again, public data. You can kind of sort of reach earlier people via cold outreach by stacking niches on a list, but at the cost of more staff, more risk, more complexity, and more emotional friction on both sides. And let me explain why Meta works with pre-distress so well. Meta, which is also Facebook and Instagram, has behavioral data, what content people engage with, interest data, what pages they follow, topics they care about, and life event data, relationship changes, moving, aging, etc. Context signals, what they watch, what they click, what they scroll past. It doesn't just wait for the foreclosure filings, the tax liens, or the sell my house fast searches. Especially with Meta's new Andromeda update, now the platform is optimized to match creative to people who exhibit similar behavior to others who responded well. That's why the new game is broad audience targeting a lot of creatives, which equals good targeting. You're telling Meta, these are the type of situations I want to speak to. Then let its algorithm find people who act like that based on behavior. And you can find these people months before they ever end up on a list. Meta is practically the only platform besides TV placements that can do pre-distress at scale. And let's go over the math again slowly. Traditional late-stage in-market approach, your cost per lead might be $300 to $400 cost per lead. Maybe you're at a 1 out of 15 leads to contract. Your cost per deal might be $4,000 to $5,000. And if your average assignment fee is $15,000, on paper, the return on investment is 3x. But after salaries, tools, rent, taxes, and your own pay, you're not left with the same growth opportunity as a few years ago. And as cost per lead inches up, that return on investment compresses even more. And now let's look at the pre-distress meta approach. Consider your average cost per lead should be 75 to 150 at most, conversions 1 out of 20, maybe a little bit higher, your cost per acquisition is now roughly at $1,500 to $2,000 per deal. With the same average $15,000 average assignment, that's roughly a 7 to 10x return on investment. Even if the lead to deal is a little bit higher than in market audience, the real metric matters. Cost per deal, total profit, and your return on investment. These stats all move in your favor. And as your pixel learns, the content library grows and your warm audience expands, you get a compounding effect that traditional channels just don't give you. And here's what you need to understand. Right now, less than 5% of the wholesalers nationwide and acquisition teams really understand or are even implementing the pre-distress targeting with Meta. Most of them tried a few We Buy Houses Facebook ads, use bottom of the funnel languaging. For example, hey, do you need to sell your home because you're in foreclosure? We'll buy your house in 7 days or less. No fees, no obligation, right? You've probably seen those. They're targeting the same late stage distress as Google ads, and they concluded Meta leads are trash. So that's your advantage. So if you implement this correctly, you'll have a 12 to 24 month head start in your market. You'll train your pixel, which is also your digital scent dog, far ahead of your competitors. You'll have a month of data on what marketing works in your area. And when others arrive later, they're going to be starting from scratch. And will pre-distress Meta will always be this wide open? No. Eventually, more people will figure it out. Competition at that layer will increase. Performance will normalize. But early movers will own the best audiences, have the best creative muscle, and be seen as the default brand in local markets when homers think off-market solution. Late movers will always be playing catch-up. But before you get too excited, I want to be honest with you, this is not going to be for beginners doing their first deal. Investors who refuse to run paid advertisement consistently, or even people without any follow-up infrastructure. And if you have less than $3,000 per month in available marketing budget, I will probably just stay away from inbound marketing altogether for now, because Meta's algorithm need data. And if you're spending $800 per month, it just simply can't learn fast enough. And what do you expect to make from $800 a month if you're getting an average of 5x to 10x return on investment? You'll get a distorted view of the performance and you'll quit before the thing has a chance to compound. But who is this for? Investors who are already closing 2 to 4 deals per month, operators in local markets that has a basic team and systems in place, people who can think 60 to 90 days ahead and not just, I need a deal this week. This is going to be for serious players that wants to lower their cost of acquisition, build a defensible acquisition engine, and not just chase what's hot right now. If you're below that threshold, focus on mastering your craft. Get better at comping, negotiating, and even adding more exit strategies into your tool belt. Then you'll be able to close more deals with needing less leads, and then come back when you're ready to scale strategically. And I'm not here to gatekeep. I just want to make sure that you're protecting your marketing dollars as closely to your chest as possible. But if you're an operator that's currently thinking, wow, that's exactly what I need right now, you have two paths. At this point, keep doing what you're doing. Keep targeting public distress only. Keep competing with 20 other investors per seller. Keep watching your cost per acquisition rise every quarter. Let legal platform shifts squeeze your margin. And eventually you'll hit a breaking point and you potentially might even shut it all down. I've seen it happen. Or you can survive, but consistently feel like you're working twice as hard for half the margin. And path number 2, you can adopt pre-distress targeting. Start accessing sellers in 60 to 90 days before they hit anybody's list. Lower your cost per deal while the industry average keeps rising. Build a predictable system that warms pre-frames and brings sellers directly to you. You can dominate your market's mental shelf space in the next 12 to 24 months. Not by being the loudest, but by being the earliest and most consistent. If you want to position yourself ahead of the curve, the window's open right now. And if you want to see whether if this will work in your market, book a call with me using the link in the description. On the call, we'll look at your current acquisition model. We'll look at your numbers, cost per lead, your cost of acquisition, and your average spread. We'll talk through how pre-distressed Meta will plug into your system. And if it fits, we'll walk you through implementation. If you're doing less than 2 deals per month, we're spending less than $3,000 on marketing right now, this might not be the best time just yet. Down the basics first. Get yourself into the level where this kind of system actually has room to work. And by the way, the video you see on the screen right now is a great next step if you're still in that phase. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the call or in the next video.